We're going to have our first instructor is going to be
Look at this handsome chap here.
this guy.
So it's going to be this guy.
So this guy
Very
is,
reserved.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a quiet guy, and he's all the way from Ipswich, I believe. He's all the way from Ipswich. Now, he decided, though, what he would do is, since he bought his passport and he managed to get out of Ipswich, he went all the way to Canada, where, but we don't need to tell you any more than that. He has a class which is called The Power of Being Underestimated. So it's going to be a bit of a thinker. And actually, like I said before, Dom and I come from an entertainment background, and we're really looking forward to following along with this class.
Yes.
This first class is live, and you can ask as many questions as you want.
So no pressure there, Rupert. No pressure.
Okay.
So we're going to switch over. Hopefully our connection will work. So if we're ready to
Without
roll,
any further ado, let's welcome to the show.
There we go. Yeah, no.
This guy. Look.
Oi!
yeah, I think we've got him.
What are you doing there? No, I was just about to get the high score.
Oh, sorry, Rupert.
You said GMT. You said GMT, not GMT +1.
But it's my Balloon Dog Apparel watch. It's only analog. It doesn't have the update smartwatch feature. Sorry, buddy.
Actually, it doesn't. I've just realised that I haven't put my watch forward on my Balloon Dog Apparel
Yeah,
watch.
there you go.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
there we go.
looking at the same as well.
So, hello, Rupert. How are you?
Hey, no wonder.
Hello, I'm glorious, thank you. Oh, hang on a minute, hang on.
Oh, what's? I know it's late at night here, but
Oh.
oh.
Da-da. Hey! Oh, hey, he's outdone us.
I'm liking that.
Do you know what?
Yeah, what's that, buddy?
A really good idea is to put a big bathrobe on over a suit and a tie. Yeah. That's the cleverest thing I've ever done in my life, that is.
At least you weren't waiting for 30 minutes.
Yeah. I kept going, oh, they're going to say my name. They're going to say my name. Oh, no, let's talk a bit more about your leggings. I'll tell you what, though.
You've ordered some, yeah, we know.
Hang on a minute, hang on. Slippers. Look,
Nice.
do you like them?
I do, yeah.
Slippers with a suit.
We've only got a shirt and
Yeah.
a t-shirt.
The thing is, as well, is that this guy, which a lot of people know him as Phileas Flash, actually is, he's got another name that you think is made up, which is Rupert Appleyard, right? I don't understand why you went for the other one.
No, it's a long, silly story, and unfortunately for you, I'm kind of going to tell you that story tonight.
Right, well...
Yeah, I could tell you that bit because I haven't actually put it in, so probably a better idea that I tell you that now. The name came about from my background, really, and I didn't really like being called Rupert Appleyard as a young guy growing up in 1980s England. Rupert Appleyard is not the name that you want to be growing up with, so I got a stage name, and then I used it for Facebook, and like all things in Facebook, sticks. And people, when I first started making balloons, started calling me Phileas Flash. And kind of, the funny thing is that it stuck so much that when I started going back to, there was that big Facebook scare a few years ago where they went, all the names that are made up, you've got to use your real name. I went back to using my real name and no one listened to me at all. Brilliant. It was brilliant. I go, yes, the thing to a balloon, go, who are you? Who are you? And great. So I got scared of it again for a while, and then just recently, and I'm going to talk a bit about Blackpool, I got to teach at the world's largest magicians convention, and they put Rupert Appleyard on the badge, and I went, do you know what? That's me. And I decided to be Rupert Appleyard again. Isn't that nice?
It really is, buddy. It really is.
That's why no gold braid today, you see. Look at this.
Yeah.
Wearing a suit, which is what I always wear in my basement.
As you do.
But it's true. Yeah, when we get to the thing, you'll see what I'm known for wearing. In fact, in the background here is what I'm known for wearing. And I've really found recently that clothes make the man, right? So if I wear something swanky like this, people react differently to you. Just like you guys there. People react differently to you.
Yeah. True.
They do. Honestly, you know it's true. And going to a magician's convention, don't tell the wife, but I even got a manicure. Look at that. Because I know close-up magicians.
But it is called a manicure.
Right? I'm a clown. So what do you do if you want to be like the close-up magicians? Get a manicure.
Absolutely.
Makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's very true. Well, we actually did some videos for Pioneer where there was a lot of close-ups of our hands, and actually we were taken for a manicure by Susan Dillon beforehand, which I have to say is actually quite painful. I was very surprised. I wasn't expecting. I thought this is like you're being pampered and everything's nice, not having bits of wood and sticking up the bit on your. That's torture.
Are you sure it was a manicure, Keith? I mean, that didn't happen to me. They just did my nails. I don't know where they were.
Fingers!
I think he's trying to say cuticles. It's cuticles.
Cuticles.
I'll save him now.
You keep your cuticles to yourself, buddy. That's what I say.
So anyway, as we've now shared manicure advice with...
Okay, go on. Let's go.
Right.
Yeah, let's
So...
go.
We're going to disappear.
We're going to hand you guys over to the fantastic Rupert, and we shall be here in the background should he need us. And
I think you will.
If you do
With
have
your cuticles, you're really cool.
If you do have any questions, please ask, and we have our fabulous friends in the chat who will do our best to translate any questions that we have. Okay, and yeah, enjoy.
over to you, young man. Over to you.
Oh, what? Who are you talking to, young man? Hello, it's me, Rupert Appleyard, or Phileas Flash, as we established before. To say I'm a bit terrified of this is a little bit of an understatement. There's an awful lot of you and only one of me, and normally I can see if how you're reacting when I talk to you like this. But today I'm not going to be able to do that, am I? So I do hope you enjoy this. It's a bit different from other classes I've maybe taught and what you know me for. What you know me for. Know me, so I told you I was a fairy finder. This is a class that I taught in Blackpool Magic Convention, or a very close class to that. I want to get to teaching and talking a little bit about stuff that's important to me. And balloons are probably the most important thing that ever happened to my life and to my career, and I hope I owe them a huge debt of gratitude. And this is a talk that I do for people who aren't necessarily balloon artists like you, but I thought today, because you know, it's not like you've heard people talking for the last 20 minutes or so. You might want to hear someone else talking for a bit longer, right? Right. It's hard when I don't know if you're laughing or not. Probably not. Anyway, I have a PowerPoint presentation. You see, look at that. I'm wearing a suit and I have a PowerPoint presentation. So if I could ask Dom and Keith, the lovely Dom and Keith, give them a round of applause. Give me $50. Give them a round of applause, thank you. Even at home, they can hear you virtually. Yeah, virtually hear you anyway. If they could put up the first slide, I would very much appreciate it. It's my intro. It's only like I've got an hour and a half to fill. Come on now, come on. It's really funny, actually, because I can see a little lag going on. Ooh, I'm going to have to just move myself out of the way. Look at that. Looked like I picked my nose then. Wash my hands for 20 seconds after that one. Virtually, because I don't have a tap here. Yeah, so this is a little lecture that I put together. And I'm also going to do a little bit of balloon twisting as well during the lecture. It's not so much a balloon workshop, so it more explains a little bit about me. I'm maybe not your average balloon twister, or maybe I am. I'm obviously wearing a suit like every balloon twister I've ever met. This is called The Power of Being Underestimated. And for me, that's really what being a balloon artist is all about. I think we are all underestimated. And I don't want to give too much away, but I also don't want to forget things, which is why we've really got a PowerPoint. So if I'm looking over here, it's not because I'm ignoring you, it's because I'm looking at my own PowerPoint presentation, so I know what I'm saying to you. Okay? Give me a thumbs up. Useful. So the other name of this is How Balloons Change My World, and how they can do the same for you if you let them. They really did change my world. I'm sure you're all pretty aware of that because I've met quite a few of you in person. I've gone all around the world teaching balloons. I've been on TV teaching, showing balloons. A couple of them are going to come up. I even met my wife because of balloons. But they've been amazing. And yeah, I just wanted to tell you all about it and my path. If we could go to the second slide, I can maybe show you a little bit more about how cool they are and what they've done for me. I have to watch the time as well because I don't want to go over too much. I already wasted 8 minutes playing PlayStation. All right, so what's the big deal with balloons? Balloons are an emerging art form, and that means that people really do underestimate. The expectations of what can be made out of balloons are incredibly low. I'm not joking with this, it's true. For example, if I was to make a balloon, any time I make a balloon or get the balloons out, I'll say, what would you like me to make? And if I don't specify what I can do with balloons, people will ask me to do a balloon dog challenge and make a balloon dog just behind my back, right? And that's completely acceptable. I'm not going to do it because no one's challenged me yet. That's probably the worst thing in the world that can be said. But yeah, I've made it really badly as well. Listen, when most people ask for a balloon animal, they expect a balloon dog. And that means that in my line work, or pretty much whatever I do with balloons, this is what gets asked for again and again and again. And people ask for a balloon giraffe or something along those lines, right? People are surprised by this, that this is something you can do. This is what they expect. So if you can pull something else out or make something else, they're always wowed. And it's something that's fed me for the last few years. And it's something that can change your world as well. If you start looking at balloons from a perspective of a layman, I think you guys will know that term. It's the term that magicians use. It means someone who's not a magician, but in our terms, someone who's not a balloon artist. If you start looking at balloons from the thought process of just a normal, ordinary person, you soon realize that this is absolutely amazing to you. So if you can do something else, something even more impressive, you blow them away. You absolutely do. The other thing about balloons as well, which is why they're such a game changer for me especially, is that because they can completely change someone's mood. You can have someone who's the grumpiest McGrump of all time. And I hope Evie's going to translate that one. Grumpiest McGrump of all time. You can have the grumpiest person in the world, someone just sitting there stuck in their own world, and you make them a balloon. And it lightens their world. It makes them happy. Brings a certain joy to their life. And I know as balloon artists, I know the vast majority of people who are going to be watching this are balloon artists. You know that already, right? You know that when you pull out a balloon, someone's going to smile. I love that. It's something to do with the way that balloons connect to us and connect to our psyche. We start off as children. That's where we first start getting balloons. And because we get balloons as children, we associate them with that fun, that excitement of the party. Oh, isn't it going to be great? We've got balloons coming. Oh, the clown's coming. You're coming to make us a balloon dog. Oh. That one's broken. You know, it's a really lovely thing. I mean, the other good thing about that is you can yet again completely defy someone's expectations. So, for example, if someone's expecting something fun, you could do something that makes them sad. You know, I don't know, Braveheart, is that going to be sad? I don't know. But you really can. You can make them extremely sad by popping the balloon. They're a really cool thing, and it taps into us primally. The other thing is, and I noticed Ted and Betty mentioned this, and it's one of my favourite things in the world, is balloons connect to your inner child. And, you know, I've travelled the world making balloons and entertaining people, and everyone has an inner child. That's why balloons are associated with, balloon twisting is associated with children, that line work thing. Oh, do you make balloons for the kids? Well, yeah, I do. But actually, I also get paid a lot of money to make balloons for adults as well, because when I make balloons for adults, all I have to do is connect to that inner child. And when I connect to an inner child, I can really cut under the radar, you see. I can, what's the word? I can defy their expectations. I can be making something with my hands. And if I'm making, because I've done this for so long now, if I'm making something with my hands, a balloon, I can make it, and generally I'm not going to be looking at what I'm doing. They're going to be watching what I'm doing, but I'm going to be talking to them about anything, and it could be anything. If it's a kid, I'm going to be telling the bad jokes like, what do you call a flying monkey? A hot air balloon. But still, I'm thinking about the next joke I'm going to tell. If it's an adult, I'm going to be talking to them about something quite serious and still connecting with them about this balloon. I could be talking to them about what their children like, the child that they're going to take that balloon home to, because that's often the excuse of having a balloon. But yeah, I could be talking to them about their next gig. I could be making an adult joke. I could be finding out who they are. A lot of people think that entertainment is just making jokes. But in reality, entertainment is the art of engaging someone. And that's what I love about balloons and how they can completely change someone's mood in that way. Yeah, go serious, go happy, but generally be fun. The other thing is that balloons are super versatile, just like me. I can dance, I can sing, I can even crack a funny face. But listen, they're super versatile, and that means you can do anything with them. This is such an amazing emerging art form, and there really aren't any rules. Well, there are, you know, we've got the rules of design. We've got our lovely rules that you get as a CBA, if you want to be a CBA like me. You get those rules of design and what the composition and all that stuff. But the rules about making balloons are really very new. And so for a twister like me, the lovely thing is we can define the rules. We can create the rules. We can create the rules of decor. I mean, look at organic decor, for example. Organic decor, no one really saw that years ago. And suddenly, this beautiful art form has just emerged out of nowhere. So, as an artist, I just think that's spectacular. It gives us so much scope, so much stuff to play with. And that is why I'm standing here in front of you right now. You see, I didn't come about this in the way that, say, a balloon artist would normally come about this. I kind of fell into it. I wasn't intending to make balloons, to be honest. It wasn't my great career move. It wasn't what I wanted to do when I was younger. I never said to my mum or my career advisor, Mum, I'd love to make balloons when I'm older. That would be awesome. No, I didn't say that. I had something much, much more realistic. And if we go to my next slide, you'll see my more realistic career was something very, very, very normal. You see, I was an actor and I wanted to be a Hollywood bad guy. Yeah, that was it. I was going to be a bad guy. You see, I'm not just any old actor. I'm an English actor. Can we change the slide, please, Keith and Don? Yeah, I'm an English actor and I wanted to make a lot of money as an English actor. So when you're an English actor, the only way to make money is to be the baddie, right? Isn't that the truth? I wanted to be the guy who boos and sneers at and complains at on TV, but really is rolling in the money. It's a good ambition, isn't it, to be a Hollywood guy? Anthony Hopkins did it. Who else? Lots of them. Any English actor you think of who you think is successful was a Hollywood bad guy. So through school, that was my aim. I studied drama. I went to college for drama. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to be the Shakespearean bad guy. I could do a Shakespearean speech for you now. But you're probably bored of my voice already. But that wasn't the way it went. In fact, I was an actor for a while. I was very poor. And living in Ipswich in the UK, which is where I'm from, as Keith and Don said, being an actor is not the easiest thing to do. Most acting jobs, if you know anything about the UK, happen in London. So to go to an audition, I'd have to get on the train, hop to London. I couldn't drive for ages as well, right? So it cost me a lot of money to go anywhere at all. I'd go for an audition, get in there, and I wouldn't get the job because I actually wasn't a very good actor, right? I'm sure if I was as good as Anthony Hopkins, then it would have been all right, right? I would have been an actor straight off. But no. Didn't really happen. So I ended up doing a million other jobs. I worked in factories, or as they say over in Canada, I worked in plants. although that kind of confuses me a bit because plants are green things like trees, and I didn't work in trees. I think people would have liked me to have sat in a tree sometimes and not done any work. I actually got fired once for singing on a job. Yeah, it's actually a true story. I really did. I got fired for singing on a job. I used to go around singing every day. And if you've heard me singing, you'll realise that was actually true, yeah. But I was a singer in a band as well. You know, when you can't fulfil your dream, you go for another dream, don't you? So I decided to be a singer in a rock band. In those days, I had nice long hair. My nose was pierced. I had all these piercing leather trousers, very nice too. But I wasn't a very singer in a band, obviously. But one day, what happened was my drummer in my band had this big gig coming up, and the drummer in my band broke his arm. And I had to ask the only other drummer I knew if he'd step in. And the only other drummer I knew was my brother. And my brother was, he's an interesting chap as well. My brother Justin Appleyard. Yeah, he's a performer too. And at this stage in his career, he was a super cool performer. Although I didn't really see that because my brother was a clown. And in fact, if we put that slide up, you can actually see what my brother looks like, because that's him by the clown car right next to us. Do you see him right there? Look, that's him. That's him. Look at that red nose. Yeah, so my brother, I'll tell you about this, but I joined the circus at the age of 29, right? So when people go, oh, you must have done this all your life to be so good as a balloon artist. No, mate, no. I started at 29, and that was joining the circus. That wasn't even twisting my first balloon. I joined the circus. I was the world's most evil ringmaster. My name's Flash. And I was the bad guy, right? I was the bad guy, and my brother was the good guy. The idea was, I was all very smartly dressed, and as you can see in the picture, I was very slim in those days. And the idea was the ringmaster, he gets the chance to be the bad guy. Normally in a circus anyway, he tells the crown off, but I wasn't just that kind of bad guy. I was a real bad guy. At the beginning of the show, we'd have this bit behind the silhouette curtain. You'd see me, I'd come out, ladies and gentlemen, this is with the deepest of pride and the greatest of pleasure. We welcome you all here tonight. And now we invite you to relax, pull up a chair. The Circus Ricardo proudly presents tonight's show. And we'd do this thing, it would be lovely, and then we'd go backstage. And we'd have the curtain. It's a silhouette curtain. My brother was brilliant, right? He came up with this idea. I have a silhouette curtain. So we'd have this thing go on behind the stage, where I'd con my brother out of his half of the circus. The story was that we owned it together. I mean, in reality, he owned it, but the story was we owned it together. And I got the circus for just one day, and during that one day, I sold it. That was the idea. I was going to sell it by the end of the day and go to Monte Carlo to play cards. Isn't that funny? And then I'd come out on stage thinking no one had seen me, and they'd all boo me, right? They'd be like, no, boo! What are you talking about? Oh. So Flash was this villain character. And actually, because we were playing cards and I'd cheat him at cards, that was the reason I learned magic. Because everyone else would do a little roving act at the beginning of the show. And I thought, well, I should do a roving act at the beginning of the show too. So I'd come out and I'd do a card trick. The only one card trick I knew, and my whole reason for doing the card trick would be to go, do you know how I did it? I cheated. And that would be it. We'd be setting up for this, me cheating him at a game of cards. But I'll tell you something. Being the villain in a small touring circus, it's not much fun, you know. It's fun when you're on stage, don't get me wrong. But I'd have people thinking that was really me. I'd have people telling me that, oh, you're terrible to your brother, you're awful. This woman actually came up and shouted at me after the show. Because you'd meet people at the end. I'd always get my comeuppance. I mean, it was a fairy tale circus. I ended up turning into a clockwork doll at the end of the show. And my brother would fall in love with the love of his life. It was lovely. It was a really nice, magical little thing. But as the bad guy, people would be absolutely horrible. Isn't that funny? I know that I've heard that from actors, and they're walking down the street and people meet them. They go, oh, the EastEnders actors, Coronation Street's more famous around the world than EastEnders. But EastEnders actors go, oh, you Phil Mitchell, I saw what you did to your mum last night, and things like that. Well, it's true. People behave. Some people, they can't understand the difference between make-believe and reality. Or, you know, and that would happen to me. People would make me feel really, really sad that I was the villain. So what we did was, we used to have this thing in our circus that the stories you wrote came true. So the last year of me being on the circus, I got to write the story a little bit, and I had myself turned into the thing my character hated the most, which was a clown. And I became the good guy. And there's nothing better than being a good guy, right? If you're the good guy, everyone loves you, and it's lovely. And since that point, I've stayed a clown. Oh, I was going to make something here. This is something my brother showed me, actually, because that's something people don't know, is that I never wanted to make balloons. I told you I was a classy thespian, a classy actor, right? My brother was the guy who made balloons, and he'd sit there. I mentioned EastEnders. I used to like watching EastEnders in the UK, and he'd squeak. Just like this, look, I'll put it near the microphone. This would be my impression of balloons. Yeah, my brother's really good at the art of public squeaking. He would squeak, 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 just like this, and I'd go, "Oi, I can't hear what you're saying. What's he said? What's Phil Mitchell done to his mum today?" And that would be my problem. I wouldn't be able to hear anything. So I, personally, used to hate balloons. I really, really hated them. Because I was an evil ringmaster. I wasn't the clown. My brother killed me for doing that. There we are. It's one of the balloons my brother once showed me. Look. It's handy if you fall over, you've got an airbag strapped to your face. No. For me, as I said, I didn't like balloons. And I saw all the books on balloons and they just didn't do it for me, man. I was just like, no. So you can make a balloon dog. What's special about that? I just don't care. And then I saw that book. What was it? The Palantini book. I think that's what it's called. Where they made Road Runners and Yosemite Sam and all these really cool characters. But I just couldn't get my head around it. How are you going to do that out of balloons, right? I don't know. I see the book, but it was all really hard for me to understand. My brain doesn't work very well with manuals, so trying to even get my head around it wasn't for me. And then one day, me and my brother were out handing tickets out around Framlingham. Hey, that's the town that Ed Sheeran's from. Ed Sheeran? I think that's his name. That's the town he's from. And we were handing balloons out for our little handing things out, flyers for our little circus, right? And I saw my brother make a balloon, just one little balloon, nothing special, just something I thought was cool. And it was the balloon that absolutely changed my life. Just one thing. Now, I don't know if anyone can guess what it was. Any ideas? I can't hear you. Because you wanted to scream. Most people probably are shouting now or going to bed. One of the two. Was it a fish? No, it wasn't a fish. Was it intestines? Embarrassed bananas? Wieners? No. My brother, if you can hear over the squeaking, my brother made something awesome. He made something fantastic. Ow. He made something that I wasn't expecting. You see, my brother made a balloon. My brother made, I can probably guess if you're a balloon twister exactly what my brother made. My brother made something that defied my expectations, but it's something I'd actually seen him make a million times before. In fact, if we put up that slide again, you can see that my brother is even wearing it in the picture of us in that clown car, right? You look, he's wearing a big flower on his lapel. And that is what I saw him make. Oh, by the way, I just thought to mention that clown car never went anywhere. We had to lift that in and out of every picture we ever took of that thing. But look, he made a balloon flower. Lovely. And it was probably the best thing I'd ever seen him make. But it wasn't because he made a balloon flower. It was because the person he made it for, it made their day. The person he made it for was a little old lady. It wasn't a child like I expected him, like he always made balloons for children. It was a little old lady who was just going about her daily business, doing whatever little old ladies do, really. We were handing her a flyer that said £5 to come into £5 to come into the circus. And look, here he goes, he hands her this balloon flower. And it made her day. It made her smile from ear to ear. It was probably, to be honest, guys, I get a bit teary sometimes thinking about that. It was one of the moments in my life that I think is one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. I can picture exactly where it happened. It was a spring day. It was a lovely thing. And this flower, this woman just took it, and it was like she was a child, 5 years old. I mean, obviously she wasn't magically 5 years old. I mean, that'd be brilliant. I'd make a fortune selling these, wouldn't I, to make you magically 5 years old? But it was incredible. And in her heart and in her head, she was 5 years old again. And that was the moment that my life changed completely. That was my moment, my perception of balloons changed completely. It was the moment they went away from being the thing that squeaks and irritates me while I'm watching TV. It was the moment that my brother went from being the clown to one of my heroes. It was the moment that I decided I'd like to make balloons. Well, I say make balloons, but in reality, that was a bit beyond me, to be honest. I wanted to be able to make a flower, a balloon flower. And because I'm human, the selfish reason I wanted to be able to make a balloon flower is because if I could do that for a little old lady, just imagine what I could do with all the young ladies. I'm a young guy in my 20s, right? I'm single. Let's make balloon flowers for everyone, and then I'll be really the luckiest 20-year-old in the world. But yeah, I wanted to make a balloon flower for that reason, just because it made people happy. And so I did. But didn't happen quite as I expected. You know, the circus, I kind of ended up leaving the circus at that point for one reason or another. But the thing about that was, which was really awesome, was that I went into doing theatre and education for a while. I went around schools teaching people, hey, if you're of a certain age in Scotland, I probably came to your school. I was a villain at your school. I was a baddie there. Gaston, oh, you're beautiful. No, you're beautiful. Oh, you're beautiful. Gaston and Bill Sykes. I was all these horrible villains going into schools. But the next year, I came back and I saw my brother making more balloons, and I thought, that's great. Still didn't learn from him. Didn't learn from anything. But I did get a job, and that job was as Santa Claus. Actually, it's my last year on the circuit. No, year before my last one on the circuit. My job was a Santa Claus. I've been Santa Claus, or I've played Santa Claus since I was 18 years old. I've helped him, and kids watching. I do believe it's a real Santa Claus. And the funny thing was that when I was being Santa, it was in Milton Keynes. No, I tell a lie, it was near Manchester, Castleford, in fact. And it was this big indoor ski slope. And we started at the beginning of November. And you can imagine how busy it is for Santa Claus at the beginning of November. No one wants to make it if you're being Santa Claus or you're helping him. So I would sit there in this chair, and the lady who was my agent, she bought a big bag of balloons. And she said, look, if you're bored, why don't you make some balloons? It doesn't matter. There's no one here. Just make whatever you want. And so I taught myself a flower. I sat there while I was bored doing nothing, and I taught myself a flower. And it wasn't quite as nice as this. I taught it to myself, right? And when you haven't got any instruction, you do it the funny way. You do it a different way. So what I did, I blew up the balloon probably like this. First few popped. And I did it each individual petal, which in some ways is a better way of doing it. And that would have happened then as well, right? And so I did it each individual petal. That's how I started. I taught myself to make a flower. So I did it. And then my brother at Christmas, I'm single balloon. I made I'm so proud of myself. Every Christmas present that year had a lovely flower on the top of it, like a 5-petal or a 4-petal flower, something like this, as a ribbon, a bit like that, right? And then my brother showed me the proper way to do it, because my brother's actually a really nice guy. He showed me how to do it the way I did it before, with the rest of the bits and bobs. But that was all I could make, was a flower. And then after Christmas, well, I was really, really broke. Does my brother still work with balloons? And if so, do you guys ever do anything together? Yeah, my brother does still work with balloons occasionally. He does quite a few things. He doesn't have the circus anymore. He sold the circus eventually. And now he's a freelance clown. He also does roadieing. He's a roadie these days. Well, he is normally, but obviously with the current crisis, other things are going on for him at the moment. He's a really good clown, though. My brother actually changed my entire perception of clowning. You know, I was an actor, and I had my own ideas of how life should be and how I was going to be Shakespearean. I told you I was a villain, right? My brother, that's funny because I am dressed like a villain tonight. My brother, though, really showed me that. Yeah, I'll admit, when I was first growing up, I was the actor type, so I was always really brilliant at performing. That was kind of my thing. And then the first time I saw my brother clowning, I went, oh my goodness, look at that. He's incredible. Because my brother can connect with children. And I learned so much from my brother. Not just balloons. I learned how to interact with people, how to interact with children. The guy's a master clown. He's incredible, incredible. If you ever get the chance to see Justo the Clown in action, really, really, you should. He's awesome. He's stuck with simple balloons, though, right? That's his thing. Actually, he used this lovely thing that we wrote together. It was a lovely little he was trying to impress his girlfriend at the time, and he used to do this thing, and I always thought it was really good. He'd go, "She loves me. She loves me not. Me. She loves me not." Oh, I should have made an extra petal. Isn't that nice? Awesome clown. My brother's an awesome clown. He'd be mad at me for showing that. That's one of our secrets. Anyway, what else? Oh, yes. Let's change the slide, please, because that was when the circus kind of finished. I did a trapeze act in the circus with my girlfriend at the time. It was a clowning act. She was a green fly, and she'd go around popping these balloon flowers. But that was all. Oh, sorry, I skipped a bit. Yeah, but that was all I can make. That was my last thing in the circus, really. I'm going to skip mine to there as well. But I want to talk about positivity a little bit, and I want to tell you about being broke, because that was really how I became a balloon artist, was because I was broke. See, I can make a balloon flower, but that was all I could make. And after Christmas, well, there isn't any work for Santa Claus except for looking after next Christmas, but helpers like me, well, we don't really work from at that point, unless you live in the North Pole. There's lots of work for elves in the North Pole. But yeah, so I was really broke, and I went to see I was staying with my brother's girlfriend at the time, who lived in Blackpool. I quite like Blackpool. It's a nice place. Off-season winter Blackpool is pretty cold. And I told you I did a bit of trapeze. Well, there's someone who'd been trying to teach me trapeze a couple of years before, and I went to see them. And that person, yet again, something very strange changed my life completely. And you see here, it says one positive action can change a person's life. Well, this person said to me, Rupert, how come you're broke? And I went, well, it's off season for the circus, right? And there's no theatre for me at the moment, and Santa Claus work isn't there. And they went, but you can make balloons. And I said, yeah, I can make a flower. And this person, his name was Jose, he said, no. He says, if you've got balloons in your pocket and you can make balloons, you should never be poor. You should always have money. And I went, yeah, but flower. He said, it doesn't matter. He said, I'll tell you what, why don't you go and see if I'm right? You've got nothing to lose. You can't even afford money for your car, right? For the gas in your car. You're struggling to eat. He said, you've got nothing to lose. Go out on the streets of Blackpool and see if you can make money. And that's what I did. The next day, I was really nervous. I was probably almost as nervous as I am right now, talking to 1,000 about my life. It was one of the most nerve-wracking things I've ever done. I went out with a little bag of Qualitex balloons. Always new quality. It was a mixed bag in those days, a bit like my career. It was a mixed bag of balloons, and I went out with one of these all, and you know what? I was giving away all my pumps. This is the only one I've got now. Silver. Never gold for me, always silver. But look, I went out with this, and I went out with a balloon with a hat. It wasn't even as glamorous as the hat is in that picture. I can't even remember. This is a picture from later on in my busking career, but you know, it wasn't exactly glamour. And I made a whole £10 in my first day as a busker. I was out there for a few hours as well. And all I was making was flowers. But people would go, oh, can you make a balloon dog for my little boy? He loves balloon dogs. And I'd go, don't ask me for a balloon dog, I say. No. Everyone always asks for a balloon dog. But you know, so much more than that. You can make anything out of balloons, right? Now, the reason being that I used to say that, and this was from the very first day I started as a busker, is because I had no idea how to make a balloon dog, right? And I knew that all of you out there in the world know exactly what a balloon dog looks like. You know what it looks like. So if I made a balloon dog and I didn't was doing, well, you'd know I was a big fraud and all I could make was a balloon flower. So I used to ask people, I'd say, well, do you know what? You can ask me for anything and I'll do my best to make it. Balloons are so versatile. I mean, if you ask me for something, I'll make you the best thing ever, a balloon flower. But if you ask me for something else, I'll make that, right? And that's what I do. And I couldn't afford. I mean, the money started going up. That was the really interesting thing. Is the more I was challenged to make something, even if it looked dreadful at the end of it, the more people would pay me. And the money started going up and up and up, and I'd start making more and more money. It was brilliant. The other thing is that it was really cold and miserable. And what I noticed about being a busker was, I mean, sometimes it'd be snowing. It doesn't snow often in Blackpool because it's a seaside town, but if it snows and I could be there shivering like this, people would pay me more. Isn't that lovely? And not only would they pay me more, it's really hard, by the way. I don't know if you've ever tried to twist balloons when it's raining or it's snowing. It's really, really difficult. My hands would be slipping all over the place. You know, actually, it's quite good training because now when I'm in a tropical climb and I'm balloon twisting, I sweat, right? And so you're like, ooh, this is just like twisting in the rain or the snow. But it turned it. One of the worst experiences of my life was being broke, right? And being broke and having no way of making money, not even affording gas for my car. It turned it into one of the best experiences of my life because through the struggle, through necessity of having to eat, I learned to invent balloons because I couldn't afford a tutorial. I got to create. And I got to be in a position where now, what are we talking, 16, 17 years later? 16, 17 years later, yeah. Now it's really hard to challenge me to make something and me not being able to make it because, well, imagine I was on the streets and it was the difference between me eating that night and not eating that night. The other really cool thing about that was that I started to not watch what I'm doing when I'm twisting. Okay, you see, when I make a flower or something, you might notice I'm not watching my hands, and the reason was because I couldn't really make very much. I started to not watch what I was doing. I started to let habit be the king of what I'm doing. Ooh, yeah, maybe I won't put that under my armpit. I told you that bathrobe really made me sweaty. Yeah, so I wouldn't watch what I was doing very much. I got into the habit. So if it was something that you'd asked me for a million times, I wouldn't be looking at it at all. I could talk and I could engage and I could use the one skill that I did have. And the one skill in those days that I had wasn't being a balloon artist. The one skill I had was engaging people and entertaining the children in the circus. So that would allow me to be talking and covering up the cracks in what I did. And it allowed me as well, knowing that I wasn't very good, to hone my craft. You see, when you're a busker, the good thing about being a busker, in particular being a busker, and in particular being a busker who's not a busking festival, you know, it's a slightly different matter if you're at It's a slightly different matter if you're at a busking festival. If you're just standing on the street watching people go by, the lovely thing about that is no one actually expects you to be very good, right? So if you're not good, it's no great shakes if it all goes horribly wrong. The worst thing that's going to happen is I'm not going to eat that night. And that happened a few nights, believe me. But it allowed me to get really good at what I did without the expectation being huge. If I was going to a corporate gig and I was making some of the stuff I was making in those days, believe me, I wouldn't have been working in that corporate gig and I wouldn't have eaten that day either. The other thing I was going to say as well, look at this. This is part of something bigger, right? And that's another thing as well, being a busker and actually getting out and doing something with my life, that really helped. Because suddenly I got a corporate gig from it. I got a gig for the theatre and education company that I worked around Scotland for. And I went to this award ceremony and they paid me loads of money to go there as this guy who could make balloons. And guess what? Someone said to me, "You're not very good, are you?" And I went, yeah, I'm great at making balloons. Yeah, what are you talking about? I'm entertaining. And they went, "No." They said, "Can you make a carousel?" And I said, "No." And they said, "My friend can make a carousel. He makes £60 every time he makes a carousel." And I went, "Oh, does he now?" So, you know what I did? The next night, I went home and I was still staying at my brother's girlfriend's father's house. I went home and I made a carousel out of balloons. It looked like coat hangers with swans on it because I still couldn't make a dog, right? So it had swans on it, not horses. I couldn't make a dog, I couldn't make a horse, couldn't make any of that. But I put it out behind me with my hat, and I noticed that my take went up that day. I made more money. And the other thing I noticed about this was I didn't actually have to be that impressive at the other things they did. The small things, the people would come along and they'd see this carousel with full coat hangers with a dog as it was. And you know what? They'd go, what's that? And I'd say, it's a carousel. And they'd look, they go, and you know what they'd do? They'd go, oh, I see that now. Yeah, that's great. Oh, that's lovely. Can I get a balloon? Because I've engaged them. It gave them an excuse to break the ice and they'd come and get a balloon. And at the end of the day, I gave it away to that person or to someone else. I didn't charge for it. I always thought it's luckier just to give it away to someone. Someone went home with 4 coat hangers and a dog. Or 4 coat hangers and a swan, as I said, no dogs made in those days. And the other funny thing about this as well, which I also thought was lovely, was that necessity is the mother of invention. So I realised that because I made more money because of it, well, I'd make another carousel the next day. And then I could afford a book to learn balloon dogs. So I started making balloon dogs. I mean, we're talking before the internet, right? Well, the internet was there, but not like it is now. We didn't have a lovely Q corner convention to learn from. So I was making it up as I went along. And I really did. And I started making these carousels, and the carousels got great, so great that people would give me £20 for a carousel. And I'd make them, and then people would commission me for carousels. And, you know, St. George's Day came up, St. George's Day. So I made a dragon that I walked down the street with this big dragon, and people would follow me down the street. And then I got bored of making dragons. Oh, and I saw, I'd seen a balloon artist who was very good, and she made one of those Larry Moss balloonicouture faces. So you know what, I can do that. So I went home and I reverse engineered it. And I made this face and this pirate, and I started making people. And then I noticed that balloon people really connected. Because you see, people like people, right? They like to look at balloons and see themselves. They like to see that. Do you know what I really love though? And the reason I'm standing in front of you right now, well, apart from the fact you're bored and you haven't gone to bed yet, the reason I'm standing in front of you right now is because of the kindness of strangers. All right? And this is the big lesson that I learned as a busser, that the world is full of kind people. If on that first day, no one had given me any money, I would have gone in. If my friend hadn't been kind and told me I could have made a fortune as a balloon artist, which I did £10, right? I would have gone in at that point. I wouldn't have continued. I wouldn't be standing here talking to you. I definitely wouldn't be in Canada. I told you. I met my wife when I was making a balloon, Angelina Jolie's face as it goes. That's the funny thing. But yeah, it would have been a completely different world for me. But because people were kind and they'd give me money, even though I wasn't very good, well, then yeah, I could stand and I could talk and I could perform and I could be happy and I could eat. Actually, I just want to say about this on the slide, if you don't mind, Keith and Dom, if you haven't fallen asleep from me waffling on all the time. This picture is quite interesting to me because that girl I'm talking about, the one was my brother's ex-girlfriend now, she's actually the lady dressed as the gorilla behind me. So this is a bit later in my career. You see, there was a thing called the Blackpool Magic Convention, and the Blackpool Magic Convention, I couldn't afford a ticket one year. Decided to hire my friend to be a gorilla, and I stood outside it and busked. Look at that, there I am. And I was so good that, as you can see, someone is walking right through my busking area, and my hat is really not full of money at all. And I've got a balloon in a place a balloon should never go. Anyway, we talked about Phileas Flash. I'm just going to go off the tracks a bit. I told you my ringmaster was called Flash. That was his name. He was based on a villain from the Flashman Chronicles. Well, I had a character called Phileas Flash. It was me and a friend. And this is the original Phileas Flash. Phileas Flash with a big moustache. Yeah, there was 2 of us, Phileas Flash and Pandemonious Fog. And we went around the world in 80 ways. We'd have a basket, a hot air balloon, and we'd have one of those big 3-foot rounds, right? And we didn't know what to do with it. But it would be the balloon in our hot air balloon. We'd have our feet poking out from the basket underneath. And we'd be going around going, whoa, we're at the mercy of Mother Nature and Father Incompetence. We're 4 feet above the ground. Look, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, it's funny. That was when we became corporate performers. But this was Phileas Flash, or Uncle Phileas, as I got to know him as. And it's quite sad, really. He was my character for the longest time, and I kind of stole his name. So if I play this character now, I've got no idea what to call him. He's been called Bernard, Jeremy, all sorts of names. I just don't know what to call him anymore. It's funny, isn't it? Should we go to the next slide? Yeah, let's do that thing. So, after busking and after the circus, I started doing corporate work. As I said, once you get a bit of skill, corporate work is where the money's at, right? So I'd have agents and they'd get me gigs here, there and everywhere, and I'd start building up a repertoire of balloons and bits of magic. Boy, as a close-up magician, people employ me as a close-up magician. I always feel really embarrassed about being a close-up magician because I know there's some really good close-up magicians out there. My main misdirection is my speaking, right, my entertainment value. But I always feel a bit nervous about it. I'm not exactly David Blaine. So I've become a corporate, and I started doing that a lot. As I said, me and my friend would do our roving out. Hello, Charlie, hello. Ooh, in a hot air balloon. What else did I do? Oh, I remember being a stilt walker. I hate stilts. It's really not for me. And I really hate making balloons on stilts. It's the worst thing. One time I used to wear those plaster stilts, right? My legs fell asleep. And I was standing against the wall. I couldn't walk away. And all these kids kept coming and asking me for balloons. I'm like, you're sure, because I can't walk. Yeah, no. I remember once actually being dressed as a policeman, an English policeman with that helmet on, with a little flashing light as a stilt walker. And you know what? There was a guy making balloons. And you know, the guy who was getting paid to make balloons, this is a funny thing actually. I'm going to show you the quality of that guy's balloons. Honestly, I saw, well, that's probably better actually than what I saw going out. Me and my mate were like, we're on stilts, and we're like, what is that? And he was being paid a lot of money to make that, right? Yeah, it's, well, that's a dog actually. Look at that, even though I can't even do it at the time. But he'd make things, they'd make a snake look really complicated, yeah? I'd be like, whoa, what's that? What are you doing? Oh, so, eventually, what happened was, I split up with the girlfriend. That's the truth of it. I split up with the girlfriend, and I felt really bad about it. So I ran away. I ran away to the south of France. Most people run away to the circus. I ran away from it, and I ran away to the south of France. And when I was in the south of France, I tell you, clothes maketh the man, right? Well, I didn't have a fancy costume. I can't remember. Oh yeah, I used to go out wearing like really smart gear, you know, and I'd stand on the terraces in the south of France, and I'd make balloons. I got permission from this guy at a bar called Os. That's what it was called. I'd stand there and I'd make balloons, and I'd go, and believe me, I speak French. I'm really bad at that, but I'd say, God, I can't even remember what it was. I'd say, look, it doesn't matter what money you've got. You can pay me whatever you like for a balloon. I'm just here to entertain you. I'd rather you went away with a balloon in your hand and a smile on your face than with nothing at all. But the problem is I don't speak French. So if you want to tell me to make something, you're going to have to act it out, and I will try my hardest to understand and make it. And actually, that's how I learned lots of my non-existent French. Was in that way, right? It was people telling me things like, oh, they say, oh, sapin, please. Oh, sapin. Oh, a snake, right? Things like that. They tell me all these things, and it would give me good French words. Oh, petit chien, petit chien. Oh, yes, it's a little doggy. I get that. And it was really funny. It was cool. But the illusion was, the funny thing about this was, I was dressed like some really super cool guy, and I was actually staying in my friend's tent in his garden. Yeah, I was in a tent. I was living on the goodwill of strangers yet again, because, you know, in those days, I didn't really have much in the way of money. So I stayed in my friend's garden. And actually, at one point, I didn't even have a tent. So I'd stay in a child's bed, and his children would stay in another room, and I'd stay in one of his children's beds. With kindness of strangers, right? I tell you, kindness is king. And this guy, his name was Gerard, And he was the loveliest man ever. And I'd make balloons for his kids. He'd set me into his family. And every night I'd go out and I'd make a little bit as a busker. And every day I'd come back and hang out and help him with his kids. It was lovely. What a golden time of my life that was. But, you know, just before I'd gone and left for the Dominican Republic, jumping ahead of myself, just before I left for the south of France, I'd had someone and they'd asked me something. They'd said, can you make the Statue of Liberty? I said, sure, I can make the Statue of Liberty. Of course I can. And I thought about making one of those balloonicatures or you know, the faces that Larry must have. I thought, you know, that's not right for the Statue of Liberty. She's got a longer face. So I decided to try and make faces in the south of France. And that's what I did. I went home to my tent, and I practiced. It was coming up to Bastille Day in France. And that's a really huge deal. So on Bastille Day, I made a face. And I only had 260s to do it in. So it looked like one of those musculature things. You know, who's that guy, the guy who gets bodies and takes the skin, it's not very pleasant, takes the skin off. It looked like that, the musculature underneath. And it was huge. It was about this big, right? This face, it was huge. Everyone loved it. Again, it started bringing me more money. So people would start booking me. And I'll tell you something. Oh, those girls thought that I didn't live in a tent, right? They were all right. Hey, look, the Balloon Twister. The DJs got really jealous of me. And it was awesome. So I started making faces, and I made these faces there. Taught myself how to do it. And I hadn't really ever seen anything like that at this point, because the internet wasn't really what it is now. And so I made them smaller or bigger or smaller, and they got better and better. And eventually, they were so good that I came back, and it was my friend's, my goodness, it must have been her 40th birthday, my sister's friend's 40th birthday. Tells you how long it was, a long ago. And I made her a biker, because you've got a bike, like a big Harley Davidson motorbike. And so I made her this awesome biker, and her whole body. That's the first time I'd ever made a complete person that looked like a person. And it was awesome. And you know what? I went to myself, next year, I'm going to keep this same time. I'm going to keep this same time off. And I'm going to go, and I'm going to make balloons in the south of France again, right? I was living in a truck, in a big box van. At that time, on a traveller site in the UK, I was poor, right? And I was a circus performer. And the thing about that was that living in that truck was wonderful. It was great. It was a move up from the caravan I was in before that, I'll tell you. But it didn't actually move. And that was my plan. I was going to get this truck to move, and I was going to go back to the south of France. It was going to be awesome. I was going to make so much money doing that. I was going to have a whale of a time with the girls in South France. Hey, hello. No. Come around to the summer, I'd left all this time off work. I hadn't taken any gigs because I was thinking I was going to go out and make money. Nothing. Now, I don't know if you know this, but in the UK, there's a paper for actors. It's called The Stage. And I used to read this all the time, and there was never anything in it for me apart from these jobs that I couldn't get. They wanted an actor for the Shakespearean show, and I was not that good, so I didn't get them. So I'd keep buying this paper, or I'd go into the newsagent and read it on the sly, rather than I used to do in those days. If I couldn't afford to read it, we'll buy it. But one day I remember buying this one, and it had an advert for children's entertainers. Children's entertainers wanted to go to Spain, other places like that. Spain, how was it? Spain, Mallorca. I think it was mainly Spain, actually, Portugal. And I thought, you know what, that's pretty cool. I'll apply. And I did. And that job, I got this job for 6 weeks in the school holidays in the UK. And yet again, this changed my life. I went to Mallorca. I went to Fuerteventura and then Mallorca, and I started entertaining for kids there. And the lady, the producer of this particular company was called Beverly Williamson. Why am I forgetting that? Anyway, she was wonderful. And the next year, that company, which was Thompson, got a huge contract. They became first choice, and they got this contract to go to the Dominican Republic, Egypt, all these amazing places. And it wasn't just the summer anymore. This was now an amazing time. You went for 9 months. 9 months of sun and getting paid to do stuff like make balloons. It was incredible. And you know what? I went and I did it. It was pretty cool. I she said you can choose anywhere you wanted to. I'd never heard of the Dominican Republic before. It was one of those places I just honestly never heard of it. Chose it on the flip of a coin to go there. And because I chose that place to go, within 2 weeks of landing, I met a Canadian girl. Her name was Tanya. And we got together on Valentine's Day. The day after, I made Angelina Jolie's face out of balloons. It wasn't quite as beautiful as this one. And yeah, and we did a long distance relationship for a long time. She eventually came home to live in England, and I went to live in Canada after that because she couldn't find work in England. I discovered that I couldn't find work in Canada. We ended up going back to the Dominican Republic again. I became a tour guide for something called Outback Safari. In fact, there's a picture of Outback Safari on this slide. They're great company. And as you can see, something here that you're going to notice is all these kids. Right? All these kids here having balloons. Isn't that wonderful? Look at their faces. Aren't they all really happy and having a good time? Yeah. Well, these kids in particular that would come to Outback Safari, these kids were really underprivileged kids. This was a field trip that Outback Safari would run for children who didn't have any money, came from very poor backgrounds. And at this stage, I didn't really even know that, but later on, I discovered that. And the one thing that you'll notice about the balloons that these kids have got is they're all something really simple. At this stage, I was pretty good, right? I was pretty good at making balloons by now. But it didn't matter to these kids. I could make a balloon sword, a balloon dog, and it was like magic to them. Whereas if I'd made a balloon for a Canadian or an English guest at the hotel, they expected something like really super, right? But these kids, butterfly rings. It's just incredible. I mean, I'm even looking at them now. I can't even tell what half those balloons are. They're that bad. But still, it was a huge deal to these kids. Another thing that in those days with the Dominican Republic, the balloons, you couldn't get good balloons there as well. And when we went back to the Dominican Republic, which we did because I couldn't find work in Canada and my wife couldn't find work in England, we went back and I worked for them as a tour guide. Isn't that funny, eh? Some English guy working as a tour guide for a company in the Dominican Republic. When I went back, the guy who hired me said, "Don't worry, we'll get you loads of really good quality balloons." And I had some supply with me. I had like a balloon bag with me. And that was all I had because he'd never got me any balloons. There used to be a party shop and I could occasionally buy a bag of mixed Qualitex. And I used to love it. And my wife would tell you, right, I had the same balloons in my bags for 18 months. I couldn't make anything out of the ones you'd buy, the ones you'd buy from the other suppliers. They're just pop. You can make a worm. Honestly, it was just like, oh, great. A sword even, that would be difficult. I believe Qualitex are out there now. Pioneer are out there in Dominican. It's been a long time since I'm there. And I'll tell you now, Dominican party suppliers and decorators are incredible. The things they can do with balloons, unbelievable. And now they've got even better balloons in their hands. I'm sure it's incredible what they can do. But it did make me realise something. Although I've said I was poor in my life, I lived in a truck, I didn't have any money. I had a lot more than some of these kids had, right? And I'm quite a privileged guy, really, because my expectations of a balloon are pretty high. And when I said I couldn't eat, well, that was different yet again. You know, some of these kids, man, I went in some of the houses, and some of the really poor kids in the world. Well, they're quite sad, really, and that always affected me quite heavily. So it's hard when you're a busker or you're a balloon artist and you want to try and make money and you're trying to balance that out. But I always try. I like to try and make sure that even if a kid didn't have money, they would get something. Right? They'd get a balloon of some description. Right. Anyway, as we said, oh yeah, the job for Outback Safari, it went within a month. I obviously the world's best Dominican tour guide. I was dreadful, and the job disappeared. And suddenly I'm stuck in the Dominican Republic. I just found a dog like a few days before. And I had nothing. I couldn't afford to get out of the Dominican Republic. All I had was me, this dog, and my beautiful Canadian girlfriend at the time, Tanya. And yeah, we were stuck there. How are we going to get out of here? We can't get out. Like, people offered to loan us money to leave the Dominican. And I'm quite a proud guy. And I said, no, let's try and stay. My wife fell ill She had a stomach bug, and what was lovely was that the tour guides about that safari, they rode around, they got us to hospital in Igwe, and my wife was saved because of that. I will always be eternally grateful. The kindness of strangers, yet again, that's why I'm standing here. But yeah, I had to reinvent myself again, right? I had to show adversity. The thing that was really, really hard for me had to become the thing that I became a salesman. I became a travel rep. I'd sit behind the desk, and I'd sell excursions to people. I don't know if you realise this, but travel reps, normally that's how they make their money, is selling excursions. And because I knew a few magic tricks, I'd use those. My wife's from Newfoundland, so I'd sing Newfoundland songs to the people that would come by. It was awesome, to be honest. But yeah, everyone else is out enjoying themselves, and I'm out there, so I'm sitting there behind the desk, watching you all enjoy yourself, trying to get enough money to get home. We had to actually leave the Dominican at a certain point, and sunshine led to the snow, is what I would say, because we had to leave before the end of the season, because if we didn't leave before the end of the season, my poor dog would have had to have been left in the Dominican Republic, and I had two street dogs that I'd adopted off the side of the road. So we decided not to leave them there. We decided to get out of the Dominican, and we came to Canada. Let me just see what my next slide is, because I think so. Yes, and I'm running low on time, so I'm going to have to move fast. So happy endings was the next. Happy ending. I had a happy ending next, you see, but it was really a new beginning. We managed to get enough money to get out of Canada because adversity helped us do that. Yeah, we did that, and I reinvented myself. I remember making a wish before I left Canada, and I wished that instead of selling excursions, I'd be able to sell balloons and be able to make people happy again and become a children's entertainer and do what I'm good at. That's all I wanted, just build a small business again. So that's what I did. I came back, I applied for a job as an actor. The lady said, no, you're not right for this because you're not a very good actor. She didn't say that, but I knew that's what it was. And she said, listen, I'll tell you what, there's another lady, she runs an adventure farm in Edmonton. Why don't you go and see her? I've seen the pictures of the balloons you've sent. I've never seen anyone who can do that. So why don't you go and make balloons for her? And I did exactly that. And because I did that, on Canada Day, which was the second time I worked for this lady actually, a TV presenter, a guy I was actually talking to today, he's lovely, Graham Neal, wonderful guy. He saw me, and I made a big Mountie balloon, and because he saw this big balloon, he went, my goodness, that's incredible, I'm going to put TV, he said. And he did. And not only did he put me on because of the balloon, I was a farmer in those days, so stay off the farm. And he said, all right, I'll go on TV for you, and I'll take you for a tour around the farm. And he did that. He had me doing the whole slot for him. And Graham was so wonderful. And he would always say, no, Rupert, no, I didn't do that. But he did. He put me in touch with Street Festival, Edmonton Street Festival, which I've done ever since. He put me in touch with the Comedy Festival. He put me in touch with all these people, and he gave me a platform. He really helped me establish myself here in Edmonton. I even made the first ever balloon I had that went viral and got shown all over the world was a stormtrooper. Well, that was made for Graham's kid's birthday party 9 years ago. 9 years ago, something like that. No, not 9 years ago. Child's turning 9 on Friday. Must have been about 6-7 years ago. 6-7 years ago, yeah. So I made this stormtrooper for him, and I'll tell you a story about a stormtrooper another time. I'm running low on time. But the stormtrooper was great, and it went. George Takei featured it. The guy who played Sulu in Star Trek, he featured this, and I remember that feeling of being accepted and elated that someone famous saw what I could do and thought it was worth sharing with the world. Isn't that incredible, right? And then Qualitex. Well, Qualitex saw me. And Qualitex started saying, do you want to come and teach? Convention saw me, and they said, well, do you want to come and teach? And I went, oh, I've got a unique selling point. I make balloon faces, and I don't know if I do that, then I'm not going to be featured by anyone, right? And so I started thinking about this, and I was like, do I want to teach? Do I want to teach balloons? Is that what I want to do? And I'm a performer, not really a teacher. That's what I thought to myself. So I resisted. You know, Don and Keith were talking about having the manicures so they can make the balloons with those sleeves. Only once was I ever offered that chance to go to Wichita and do the sleeves thing, and I turned it down. It was right at the beginning, and I turned it down because I didn't want to teach, and I didn't know what I was going to teach. And since then, since I'm just saying, I've been asked back, but I have gone all over the world teaching. I did it because I owed someone a favour. There's a pattern coming up here. I owe everyone favours. I owed someone a favour, a guy, Steve Klein, and I said, sure, I'll come and I'll teach for you at a convention. So I went to Florida Super Jam, I taught there, and then I went to Twist and Shout and taught for politics. It was awesome that same year. And I was so worried about losing my unique selling point and that everyone could make faces. But do you know something? Because I went and I taught, I got more back than I ever gave out. The first time I left Florida, the first time I taught at a convention, in fact, the first 2 times, I remember being on that flight and crying all the way home. Because the balloon family is all about love, right? And I have never felt so accepted and so loved in my life by random strangers as I felt going to a convention. You guys are amazing. I just love it. I love the way that you make people feel. I've been to other conventions and that's great, isn't it? But Leonardus, man, he rocked my world. And so I felt accepted by that. And not only that, there was a guy called Guido Bierhoff, who's a dear friend of mine. Guido Bierhoff, at Twist and Shout, he was teaching distortion technique. It was the first time I'd ever seen it. I saw Jason Sakota make something with distortion. I thought, that's cool. But Guido Bierhoff, suddenly, he was making things and he was showing how to do it. And because I'd been there, because I was teaching, I learned distortion technique. And it occurred to me, I went, this is the thing I needed. If I'd have stayed at home making the same balloon faces, I would have absolutely stayed stale. I would have got stale. My work wouldn't have continued. All right. And so that really, I found that inspiration is a very circular thing. You get back what you give in life, right? Kindness of strangers, that's one thing, but inspiration is circular, right? The next thing I'm going to say about that is, well, I got quite lucky now, right? So I've now got a little boy called Tatum. I think that was him crashing about upstairs. I just heard. I don't know if you can hear that. But yeah, so I've got a little boy now, and he's like three years old. So suddenly now, I used to go out on these wild adventures where I'd go to conventions just to drop a hat or go off and do some crazy stuff because I could afford to, right, in those days. It didn't matter. I'd go to the south of France and live in a tent. Can't do that anymore. Now, instead, I have to find that balance, right? So I don't go out necessarily. I have to find the balance when you I don't know if you know, it always seems very glamorous, all these people going off all over the world teaching. It is. It's awesome. I've been to Japan, Australia. Oh, my goodness, the places I've been. It's great. And the kindness of strangers are yet again having me come to their conventions and having me perform for them and teach and do shows. Oh, so great. But while you're out there, and I don't think your teachers ever talk about this, your business at home, there's no one to do it. So it kind of suffers, right? So now I have to balance that a little bit more. But last year, I got a really good chance to go to Blackpool, Balloon Bash. It's just a little convention. Because I'd learned to bake balloons in Blackpool, I thought, you know what? I should go back. And they were really generous and they were really kind. They had me there. And just as I was leaving, they said something to me. I thought, well, this guy came and found me, a guy Lee, and he goes, oh, Rupert, I'm packing the car, right? Packing the car up, trying to go. And he said, there's a guy who wants to see you. And this guy is the guy who runs Blackpool Magic Convention. Now, I don't know if you remember, but that picture of me with a gorilla was me busking outside Blackpool Magic Convention because I couldn't afford to go in. And he said, yeah, he wants you to teach. And I went, okay, I'm going to teach. And so this year, I can hear Tatum jumping up and down upstairs now. He wants to be in this, but he was in Blackpool with me the first time. So this year I got to go back and go and teach at this convention I used to busk outside of. And I have to say, it was one of the highlights of my life and the highlights of my career. I got to go and stand in a nice suit and pretend I was really serious and super cool. I went full circle, right? Full circle. And because I went full circle, there were some things that I learned and some things that changed my world. And I want to tell you about them now before time, because I am running low, about things that changed my world. And I hope if you listen to what I'm saying, could change yours as well. All right. Sometimes, maybe we'll switch to a slide so I can rattle through these. Okay. Struggling. I know at the moment there's a lot of us struggling. A lot of us are looking to see what the future holds. It's an uncertain time for everyone in the world, not just us. All right. Not just balloon artists. It's uncertain for everyone. But struggling, I've always discovered, can make you much stronger. Not always, but a lot of times when you struggle, that's when the real beauty comes out. All right. If I'd had loads of money, the last thing I would have done would be standing out making balloons on the side of the street. I would have been, I don't know, sitting playing PlayStation like I was at the beginning, right? I didn't have to. Struggling makes you more beautiful. Makes you more beautiful. Don't make you more beautiful. Look at this, makes you more lined. The second thing I'm going to tell you is this: if I can do it, so can you. Right? I'm a clown. I'm a clown. I wasn't even a clown to begin with. I was a villain. I was the bad guy. But if I can do it, well, why can't you do it? I can go out on the streets and make 10 quid a day, and it can encourage me to go out. You can do stuff like that too, right? If I can make balloon faces like this Van Gogh, you can make that too. Look at my beginnings. I couldn't make anything but a flower at 29, 30. It was 30, 31 by the time I could do that. Oh, another thing. Notice, even this one, I am looking at this. It's a little bit more difficult. It's not going particularly well, to be honest. But yeah, habit. The power of habit and repetition. This is why we get good as a balloon artist. If you get good, you don't have to look at your hands anymore. If you don't look at your hands, you can entertain while you're doing it. And you can... well, in this case, maybe not. But you can do... Popeye. Did you see that? Oh! The eye went under the chair! I can't even get to it now. Where'd it go? Come here! Come here! I'll keep an eye out for you. Ooh, a little bit of dirt in my eye there. I knew I should have vacuumed. But look, yeah, habit and repetition. It means that I can engage you and do a long lecture, almost over an hour now I've been talking to you, and I still managed to make a balloon face without even really concentrating on it. That's why it's not that good. Get good at stuff. Get good, do it again and again and again until it gets in your brain. And that's where you start making lots of money, right? Oh, this is my favourite. Balloons bring people into the moment. And I haven't got long, I've got about 10 minutes left, but I'm going to tell you now, that's my favourite thing in the world. You know, the world's a dark place sometimes, and people get really upset about stuff, politics. We've all been forced into opposing groups about stuff, and you know what, I'm not all about that. I'm about the middle ground, finding that. I found something really interesting. People forget about all that when you make them a balloon. They just want to be happy, right? We all just want to be happy. We're all just thinking about our families at the end of the day. We're thinking about love, thinking about the best way to look after our family, whatever side of the political spectrum you might be on. Yeah? And I know that a lot of you have got a political view. I see it all the time. I'm not going to tell you mine. I mean, you probably guess. But I do know this. People are people the world over. I've been all over the world, and all I see is lovely people. Lovely, wonderful people. And wonderful people, we all have this wonderful story, and it's all generally about family, right? We're trying to do the best for our family. We're trying to look after them in the way we think is best. And that's coming into the moment. You can really bring people into the moment, yeah? Goodness. Balloons are goodness, in my opinion. They're a lovely thing. Oh, this one's important. No man is self-made. We are all connected. This is one of my huge points that I love, right? I didn't talk about it earlier, but there was this thing, tiny pebbles. I put it in one of my slides earlier. Tiny pebbles, right? Actually, Arnold Schwarzenegger, I saw a speech with Arnold Schwarzenegger the other day, and Arnold Schwarzenegger was saying, we are all connected. I am not a self-made man. I'm made up of inspiration and random acts of kindness by people. That guy who put me up in his house, his name was Steve King, and he was a king amongst men. He put me up in his house, and by doing that, he threw a tiny pebble into a lake, and that pebble made ripples. The guy who said you can make a balloon, right? Make money making balloons. Yet again, one tiny pebble of kindness from that man, and the ripples are spread out. The ripples are spread out so far now that you've been listening to me for over an hour. And those ripples are hopefully going to spread out further. They're going to help you make other people happy. Maybe you've seen the face. Maybe you'll go back and you'll rewind this and watch how I made it, right? Maybe you'll make someone happy because of that. Maybe you'll make a smile, all right? Ripples, tiny pebbles. You don't know the big difference that one small thing you do can have, that change it can have on someone's life. So it's so important. Make those things worthwhile. Make them kind. Make them positive. Be kind. That's one of my big things, man. Be kind. We can all be horrible. I could be horrible. But no, be kind. In my life, the best things that have ever happened haven't been money. They've been kindness. They've been people being lovely and helping me when no one else did, right? And I also noticed people who weren't very nice when they fell, there wasn't generally as many people to pick them up as when I fell, because I was always trying to be kind and be nice to people, right? Final point of how my story can help you change the world. Really important right now. When times are dark, art shines brighter, in my opinion. All right. Everyone here who's watching this, we're artists, we're entertainers, right? And right now, I'm not suggesting go outside. I'm going to say stay inside, stay safe, stay positive. But lots of ordinary people are hiding right now. Okay, millions of ordinary people all over the world are hiding. Balloon artists are extraordinary, though, right? We can make vibrant rainbows of colour that dispel the darkness, and we can make you see that life is worth living. So now is the time to show those true colours, right? The world is really dark right now. Show your true colours. Show you want to help. Show that you care. Okay. And we're almost at the end, all right? We're almost at the end. I know you want to go. You've probably seen enough of me by now. I'm going to go to the next slide. The next slide is, if you want to learn balloons from me, this is my sales pitch, shameless sales pitch. There are different ways of learning from me right now. You can go to my shop. You can buy the Face of Things to Come 5th anniversary edition. I've got that on, it's the normal price. I haven't put it on sale because I realise that money's tight and I don't think anyone's going to buy it from me right now, to be honest. Blatant truth. The other place you can go, and I'm going to give a big shout out to Ziv Raviv from Israel, balloonartistcollege.com. Balloonartistcollege.com, he's got my back catalogue of Face Things to Come 1, the Face Things Come 2, and the Face Things Come, the Face Things Come 2.5, right? He streams those, you can buy those if you want, but what Ziv's been doing this last month has been wonderful. He's been making all his online live webinars free. So I did one for him on Monday, we talked about line work, and it was awesome. I've got another one coming up next month on St. George's Day. I think I talked about St. George's Day, and I'm going to let people choose whatever they want. There's a choice. I think it's dragons, knights in arms, something like that. He'll tell you more, and we're going to decide that. And then I've got a really special last webinar that I'll be featuring as well. And yeah, so you can go and get my streaming content there. He's got that available for people. Oh, and what's the other one? Oh yeah, we're going to get to my last slide because I am running low on time, and this is really my big thing right now. And if we could put this up on the screen fully, you don't need to see my face anymore. This is a group I started 14 years ago. No, I didn't. I started it 6 years ago with a lady called Zany Jamie. That's it, Zany Jamie. And yeah, it's awesome. It's called Random Balloon Artistry. And when I was I let it drop down and did nothing for a long time. You know, you get busy, right? And I got busy. I went off teaching how to kid, and I let this little group, basically fizzle out, and I forgot about it for a bit. And then I was in Blackpool this year, and I remembered a friend of mine, Deborah Feldman, and I remembered her green balloon doll that was her symbol, and how that was a symbol of community. And I saw in the UK that there were lots of people who were really upset about politics. And I saw a lot of people looking really sad. And so I decided with my friend DJ Rixie, who just had a kid this week, woo woo, I decided that we'd reinvent this group. And while I was in Blackpool, in the biggest gig of my life, I went online and I found 2 other administrators who helped me get this back up and running. And they were Luke Patron, CBA, and Pip Milford Hughes. And they helped me get this group back up online, and I am so glad they did. You see, it's about kindness, it's about love, and it's about generosity, and it's about being a balloon artist. You see, balloon artists are wonderful things. We have the biggest hearts in the world, and that's what this is about. The idea is, trying to wrestle a balloon in these last couple of minutes. The idea is this: you make a balloon. Now, the original idea was you made a balloon, you left it somewhere, and you just made people smile, right? Ooh, like that. The thing about this is that in today's day and age, I don't want to make necessarily just doing balloon graffiti. It's not necessarily good for the environment. So I kind of changed it a little bit. We changed it so that the idea of this group now is just to make people happy. We run competitions on there as well. And the main thing that we were doing was giving balloons to people like servers or people who looked like they weren't having a good day. That's what we were doing. So cool and wonderful. Now, obviously, COVID-19 has come along, and that's made that quite difficult. But just over a week ago, one of my friends from college shared something on my page. She shared a group that she'd come up with. And then after I finished making my fairy finding video a day later, someone else shared something on my page, which was another group that featured these things, rainbows. And so what we've been encouraging people to do over the last week or so is make rainbows, balloon rainbows, and put them in your window. Show the world that you care. I mean, these groups make rainbows all over the place, all over. I mean, it actually started, as far as I'm aware, in Ipswich, my hometown. Isn't that cool, right? Isn't that cool? And people are making rainbows. And the idea is that kids are going out in their cars and seeing rainbows in people's windows. And that's making them feel that their community still care for them. Isn't that cool? And so my little group of 300 ballooning artists all over the world have been doing that for the last week or so. We've been making these rainbows. And look, I've got some here who've volunteered to, who've said that they can show them their photo. Now, the nice thing is that we have two different ways of doing this. There's a nice group you can join up to, Random Balloon Artistry Group, and there's a page. And if you go on our page, and when you do share a balloon in the group, I'll do my best to give you credit, or I am running a long time. So you see these balloons here? Look, I want to give credit to the people quickly who made them. I've got Paul Armar, Christopher Lyle, Judy Volkman, Helen Budinger, Jane Lashner, Diana Haverstock, Bill Torgensen, Luca Tron. Now look at this bear. I'll show the picture up. Can you see that bear there? That bear, Luke made that. And Luke not only made that, but he also, in his utter kindness, because also people are doing bear trails, he's got that as a file that you can download for free from Random Balloon Artistry Group, right? Yeah. So you can go in our group. You join up. You have to answer a simple question. What's a 160? You can join up. You can learn to make that bear. You can make it for your very self. Who else have I got? DJ Morrow, Dappy Dylan McCullough. Oh, she makes some really cool stuff. Billy Damon. I love Billy Damon. Can you see? Look at him there. He made this one today. I had to get it in the last minute. Thank you, healthcare and frontline, our true heroes. He's showing them how much he cares about what they're doing right now. And believe me, that when you're out doing a job like that, every little bit helps. You want people to realise how special you are, and those people are heroes. Mary Dickinson, she made this lovely balloon rainbow with a pot of gold. How cool is that? I've never seen that technique before. Carol Bain Linda, Judy Volkman. There was also a couple more that I didn't even get a chance to put their balloons in. Heather Griffin. Heather Griffin's in Newfoundland. She's been making balloon rainbows and putting them in a window. Do you want to know what? She just got back from a trip, a really, really hard trip home from the United States. She's still making balloons, rainbows, to make people realise that they're loved. Isn't that cool? So if you wouldn't mind, as a balloon artist, maybe you could come and join our little group, our little merry band, and we can make rainbows, and then I can share them to some of these rainbow groups all over the world, and people can see our work and see that balloon artists really do care. We have big hearts. As I said, now is the time to care and show that, and do it from the safety of your own home. Oh yes, one more thing that's on there, maybe not with the mask. Hang on, I've got to get rid of this neck. But I took a leap of faith with you guys. I really did. I said there's other ways you can learn. You can go to my website. You can download the ways to make faces. But yeah, in the file section in Random Balloon Artistry in the group, there's a lovely file called The Face of Things to Come PDF Basic Edition. And that's my greatest secret. And I'm giving it to you for free because I want you guys to go out and do something amazing. Go out and have a wonderful time. Well, don't go out at the moment. Stay inside. Stay safe. Most importantly, though, stay positive. I've been Rupert Appleyard, and you guys are fantastic. Thank you for listening to the end. Do a dance while I wait for Keith and Dom to wake up. I was talking a long time.
Hello.
Hello, hello, hello. We went nowhere.
Hello.
We were right here the entire trip, my friend.
That was fantastic, Rupert.
It was a great story, buddy. The amount of positive comments that we've had through this has been fantastic. We've got to share a few with you.
Thank you.
But it really has. I mean, somebody's just saying there. I mean, it's saying, change my night. Thanks to remind me to always be kind. That's the key. Thanks for the lovely lecture. Very inspiring journey. I'm so inspired. There's just tons. I mean, we could spend probably the next 120 hours going through all of these fantastic comments about it.
I was quite scared, Dom, to be honest, and Keith. I was quite scared, guys.
Why?
That's quite a weird thing to come on and do that for this kind of convention, right? You're expecting me to show you how to twist, and I thought I'll do my TED talk instead.
Yeah, we get that. You know,
I think there was a few people that did expect you to come out and twist as well, but I think you gave us far more than that, buddy.
Yeah,
I think
Thank you.
You really are an inspiration. It was such a wonderful story from busking because you had nothing to where you stand today, which is a true testament to you and your positivity.
exactly. Yes, it's
We've been there. We've done the busking. We've been there. We've done the standing in Durham and Newcastle where you're wearing fingerless gloves just to try to keep some warmth in your hands while you're working and things. We've been there. We've done it.
We totally have. You know, we appreciate that. It's very easy. I think sometimes, you know, people come into the industry and they say, oh, there's Phileas Flash, as you were, you know, Rupert Appleyard. Wow, look at him.
Time twister.
Yeah, it's so easy for him. He's so good. You know, and they don't know where you've come from. You know, it's that, you know, how many times have you failed to get to that point where you are now? And I think it's such a fact that you've opened up, you know, that story for people. I think that's such a brave thing to do, to share that information, because it's on a little platform. You know, we always say everything we've done has been a stepping stone to where we are today. So we'd never take anything away. We would never necessarily change anything. We just learn from those, you know, good things, bad things, and put into practice the lessons we've learned, and, you know, and never be afraid to maybe go backwards a step before we move forward as well. So, you know, I think a lot of what you said, you know, it really, really hits home with us as well. Absolutely. So appreciate that. Thank you very much.
It's so important to see there's a human, right? That's the thing. We're all humans. Yeah, even me. Look.
Scooby-Doo ending.
There's somebody just put in the chat that it's so perfectly timed, this lecture, with what's going on in the world today. So, you know, well done to you, sir. Well done.
And
no, thank you. Honestly,
to come on first.
It just, I mean, I don't know if we've got time to go back, but I know you've got another. Oh God, you've got another lecture coming up. I'll show you another time. But there was a picture in the last one of this guy called Mike, and I followed my feet and I made him out balloons.
Sorry, I've already deleted your files. Sorry, buddy.
Good, I would.
I've closed them down. I didn't expect you to do that to me, buddy.
No, and he was, no, don't worry about it. But people go back and they can see on my
make sure you
picture.
hashtag it. Hashtag it with the Q Corner Convention.
Yeah.
And then
Which one?
I will. Mike, in that last one, Random Balloon Artistry, in there's a guy called Mike, and when I was at Blackpool Magic Convention, I had a day off. There he is in the bottom there. I had a day off, and he was running a charity stand called Nerve Tumors UK, right? And he said he suffers from it. He's got, like, half his face is basically gone.
Wow.
And he said, make me a balloon of me, right? And the one thing he said to me was, the only thing I care about, he said, what's and all, he said, make me smile.
Oh.
And do you know what? That affected me.
Yeah.
That really, really affected me. And that was really one of the main things why Luke, Kip and me, and now Tree-Rish, Sam Cremens and Craig Cash, why we are so passionate about this particular movement, Random Balloon Artistry, and making a difference through the art of balloons.
Yeah,
right?
It's that underlying message that we all have. You know, yes, we have to go and make a living, but we can still spread those smiles, because that's what we're in the business of.
Absolutely.
Business of smiles. So yes, we want to thank you so much. Sorry?
Smiles are rainbows.
Smiles are rainbows, yes.
Smiles and rainbows, man. Can I go back to playing PlayStation now? Are we done?
Yeah, you can go back and you can go back and play your Minecraft.
Hey, I ain't going nowhere. These next few tutors are really awesome, by the way. I'm going to be listening in. I'm even going to
relax
watch
now.
Westworld until you guys fall asleep.
Well, the thing is that at some point we were supposed to be grabbing power naps here and there, but looking at the list, I don't know when I'm going to get time to do a power nap, because it's like it's absolutely filled full of stuff that I really want to see.
Not going to happen.
Oh, incredible.
Thank you for going first.
At the end of the week, boy.
Yes, enjoyed the rest of the convention, and once again, thank you so much from us here at the Q Corner Studio and all of the Pioneer team. I know they appreciate you very much. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, so we'll finish with that one at the end there by Richard Hernandez. I love his energy. Absolutely. We love your energy.
Yes.
And we'll see you again soon, Rupert. Happy to call you a friend, my friend.
Yeah, back at you, man. Back at you. Thank you for all you're doing. This is awesome.
Bye for now, sir.
Love you.
You need to let that chap go. Thank you.
Get me off here.